What's going on? What's going on? How we doing, chat? Yay. Doing good. Okay. All right, all my windows are set. So we are on sections E and F. So we're solving the um, the different types of equations. And then on questions numbers 1 through 3, we're finding the average rate of change, which is the same thing as the slope. How's it going, Marina? Maria, it's been a long time. Glad you're able to join us. So when we solve, it depends on the type of equation. There's ways for us to solve rational equations. There's ways for us to solve absolute values, square roots, etc., etc. Are there any of these in particular that you would like to see me go over first? The average rate of change, by the way, is the slope formula, basically. I think it was either in chapter 2 or 3. We briefly talked about it, and this is essentially what it is. So, for example, the two x values that it gives you, this is your A and this is your B. So essentially, it's saying your function with B plugged in. So that means you plug in 3. Minus your function with A plugged in. So now you plug in A. And that's all over B minus A. That's it. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. How do you find your y values? You plug in the x values. And so if you just simplify that, that gives you the average rate of change. So we said number 5, square root equation. So we got to get rid of the square root. Square root throws us off. The way that we get rid of a square root is through the inverse, which is squaring it. But when we square something, we have to square everything. So the goal would be for us to get that square root part by itself. It just makes our life easier. So if I have 3 times the square root of x plus 1 equals 3x minus 9, divide everything by 3. So you get the square root of x plus 1 equals, now those cancel out, those cancel out. And so now we can get rid of the square root because it's by itself. So then I'm going to square both sides. So the square root and the square will cancel out. So I get x plus 1. And then now this is x minus 3 times x minus 3. So I want to multiply all that out. So x times x. And when you do that, you're going to get that. So now I just want to examine what type of equation it is. It's quadratic because I have an x squared. So the way that we solve quadratic equations is by getting setting it equal to 0. So I'm going to minus x on both sides, minus 1 on both sides. So you're going to get 0 equals x squared minus 7x plus 8. So now we got to think about, how does it factor? Does it even factor? What type of solutions could that possibly be? We may have to use the quadratic formula. So looking at this, x squared minus 7x plus 8, I don't think it factors. Factors of 8, 2 and 4, 1 and 8. So 1 and 8 do give me can give me a 7, but I have to get a positive 8. So it has to be positive 1 and positive 8, or negative 1 and negative 8. And those will either give me 9 or negative 9. So none of those work. So I have to use the quadratic formula. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. And so that's going to give me 7 plus or minus. Now I get 49 minus 32. And so that's going to give me 17. So these right here are my possible solutions. All we have to do now is you have to plug those back in. Now my advice is to take 7 plus square root of 17 over 2, enter that into your calculator to get like a decimal approximation, and plug those back in to here. Now, because we might have extraneous solutions, meaning you might get like a negative inside there that we're not supposed to have. I'm trying to think. They might both work, but let's take a look. I can verify that real quick with like Desmos. So 3 square root of x plus 1 and 3x minus 9. So yeah, both of those don't work. Only one of them works. So it seems like the 7 plus square root of 17 over 2, that one works, but the 7 minus square root of 17 over 2, that one won't work. And I could tell because if we looked at Desmos real quick, I entered both sides of the equation. So I have 3 times the square root of x plus 1 on one side, and then I have 3x minus 9 on the other. So I set them equal to each other, which means where are they going to intersect? And one of them is 5.562. That's my x value. And so that's probably the 7 plus square root of 17 over 2. Because square root of 17 is about 4. And so, my apologies, that was my phone. 1 second. It's my wife. And it's on silent. All right, we're set. Okay, so the 7 plus square root of 17 over 2, square root of 17 is about 4. So 7 plus 4 is about 11. 11 divided by 2, that's where we get the 5.5. So I would have just decimaled that to see if they equal each other and plug those back in for x to see which one works. So because we now know it's only the 7 plus square root of 17 over 2, that's my answer. Because if I plugged in the one with the negative, these two won't equal each other. So they would not equal. Was that a sufficient answer, or do I need to go into more detail with that? Anyone else? Any of these other ones? Cool. So to just kind of briefly talk about them, just a few of them to kind of point out. Just remember when they are functions like this, we need to find the common denominator, right? That's how we solve rational equations. Number 6, the first step. This is a quadratic type equation, so if I said u equals x squared, I can say that this is, u squared minus 7u plus 12. And then I can solve for there. So, dot, dot, dot. Any of these other ones? Okay. So, just let me know if you guys run across any issues. Just post it in Discord. I'm more than happy to answer. So let's move on to F. Now, with F, it's one of those types of things where when we always see these, it's one of those things where it's like, whoa, there's a lot going on. Like, I've never seen this before in my life. And it's one of those things where it's like, well, you kind of have, it's just written differently. And so we have seen, if I said 1/2 divided by 3/4, we've seen that before. We've seen the 1/2 divided by 3/4. We've done that. We know the trick. Switch to multiplication. We do that by flipping the second value. So it becomes 1/2 times 4/3. Well, I could rewrite this as 1/2 over 3/4. Those are the same thing. These two statements are the same exact statements. And so that's all these are just fractions divided by fractions. Now, the difference, though, is if we look at these, we're adding and subtracting in between a lot of these fractions. So that tells us as mathematicians, we just need to do one extra step and combine them together. So for example, let's look at number 1. 2 over x minus 3 over x squared all over x squared over 9 plus 3/2. So I want to combine them into one fraction. I want it to be something over something divided by something over something. I want that to happen. Because then when it's a fraction over a fraction, then I can just rewrite it as this divided by this and then do whatever I need to do to flip it, and then I can get it solved. So for us to be able to combine those together, common denominator. So the common denominator between these are x squared. So I had to multiply that by x over x. Now they're the same. So now rewriting this, I get 2x minus 3 over x squared. And then now in the denominator. So in this part, I have to be able to combine those together. So this needs a 9 over 9, and this needs a 2 over 2. So I'm going to get 2x squared plus 27 over 18. So now that I combined it into one fraction, I can rewrite it like this. So change it to multiplication so I could flip it. Times 18 over 2x squared plus 27. Now we do have to check to see if things reduce. 2x minus 3, nothing factors. This is already an x squared. That's 18. There's nothing in common between 2x squared and 27. Nothing factors there, so nothing reduces. So I can just leave it as 18 times 2x minus 3 over x squared times 2x squared plus 27. So just remember the goal, this right here. This is the goal. We want to combine it into a fraction. So one fraction, and then that's our second fraction. So we just combine them into one fraction on top, combine them into one fraction on the bottom, and then it looks exactly like everything we've already been doing. Nothing changes from there. Now some of these, though, they're going to require just a little extra setup before we actually do it. So, for example, let's look at number 4. So on number 4, if you notice, it says 1 over 4 times a minus 2 to the negative 1. We don't like negative exponents, which means we want to get rid of the negative exponents. So the way that we get rid of the negative exponents is by just moving it over the divisor, and every single time you move over the divisor, the sign changes. So to get rid of the negative, if you move it over the divisor, then instead of to the negative 1 power, it becomes to the positive 1 power. So that's actually the first thing that I want to do here. So by doing that, I'm going to get a minus 2 over 4 minus, and then a minus 3 over 4 over, and then 16 over a minus 2 plus a minus 3 over 36. So remember the goal, I want this to equal one fraction over another fraction. And the way that we combine those two fractions together, common denominator. Well, on top here, they're both 4s. They're already common. So I can just go ahead and add and subtract what I need to. So I get a minus a. Well, the a's cancel out. Negative 2 minus negative 3. So that becomes positive 3. So negative 2 plus 3, that's going to become 1. And that's going to be over 4 because the denominators stay the same. Now on the bottom here, there's nothing in common between 36 and the factor a minus 2. So this needs an a minus 2 over a minus 2. And this needs a 36 over 36. So the bottom part's easy. That's just 36 times a minus 2. The top part, bleh. So I actually have to get out the calculator. 36 times 16. That gives me 576. And then here, this a minus 3 and this a minus 2 multiply together. So plus, and that's going to give me a squared minus 3a minus 2a, so minus 5a, and then plus 6. So I just want to rewrite this. I'm going to rewrite it as 1 over 4. I'll use black. 1 over 4 divided by, and then I'm going to combine like terms together. So I'm going to get a squared minus 5a, and then 576 plus 6 is going to give me plus 582 over 36 times a minus 2. So because it's division, flip it. I wonder if I have room. So I'm going to get 1 over 4 times 36 times a minus 2 over a squared minus 5a plus 582. This 4 and this 36 will reduce, and so that's going to give me a 9. So I get 9 times a minus 2 over a squared minus 5a plus 582. Now the question is, does 582, are there factors of 582 that add to negative 5? Just woke up, man. Whoa. It's 12. It's noon. Staying up too late, bro. It could factor, but it's not going to reduce with A, and it's not going to reduce with A minus 2. So it's kind of moot. Because if it were to break into A minus 2, 2 times 582, or 2 times what gives me 582 to add a negative 5? Doesn't work out. So it's kind of moot to try and factor that because I already know nothing's going to be able to reduce. And so that's going to be my answer. So there's number 4. For number 5, I just want to kind of show you guys how to set it up, and then I'm going to leave it at that, and I want you guys to kind of try it out. So it does say x to the negative third and then x to the negative second on the bottom, right? So that means that we don't like those exponents. We do want to get rid of them. So we're going to write it as 1 over x to the third minus 1 over 1 over x squared minus 1. Now, just to be consistent, we want denominators, right? Because if I'm going to find the common denominator and then combine things together, 1 over 1 is the same as 1, so I can write it like that. Now, I want to try and find that common denominator to combine them into that one fraction, because I want one fraction over one fraction. Cool. Well, are there any last questions before I call it? Great. Well, stay healthy, guys. Stay safe. Make good decisions. Get some sleep, Bob, instead of waking up at noon. Holy cow, man. I was up at 7 this morning. But meet somewhere in the middle. Do like a 9:30. Enjoy the day. Breathe in the sun. Enjoy it. Seize it. Other than that, guys, have a good one. If you have questions, please post it in Discord. More than happy to help. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow we will go over parts G and H. Yeah, let's also throw in I, because that's unit circle stuff. That should be easy. So we'll do G, H, and I. So we'll throw those in there. All right, have a good one, guys.